Congressman Trey Gowdy joins us. Congressman, you think this is a manufactured crisis of sequester? Why?
Good evening, Greta. I'm so glad that the telephone wires and the satellites are working on the eve of sequestration and that I can join you tonight. I think, you know, I was just mildly amused several weeks ago with the notion that the president could suggest, insist upon sequestration, sign it into law, and then complain about it. And then I went to being mildly annoyed when I had friends who were in the meat packing business, threaten USDA inspectors won't be there. But when I hear the President of the United States say that federal prosecutors are going to have to dismiss cases and let defendants go free because of something he agreed to that represents 1/15 of 1 year's worth of borrowing, you know, I think it was Nietzsche that said, I'm not mad that you lied to me. I'm mad that I can't believe anything else you tell me. You and I can't lie to the Attorney General. The Attorney General ought not lie to us.
That's right. It's a felony if we lie to the Attorney General. In fact,
yes.
Judge Napolitano earlier today, I heard him on the air say how ironic is that if we lie to a federal official, it's a felony for us. Federal officials lie, and, well, that's okay. All right. Now, I mean, the whole idea that all these cases are going to be dismissed, I mean, that's a little bit phony because these criminals aren't going to be released to the street because the federal government can't release them. It's got to be a judge, number one. Will there be some sort of backlog? I mean, because it seems to me the people who will suffer in the criminal cases are the ones who are in jail because they're not going to get to trial as fast. So they're going to sit in jail longer, right?
Perhaps a little bit, but you know, Greta, we've offered, in fact, the Senate voted today to give the president more flexibility. We're talking about 1/15 of just the money we borrow, not the budget, just the money that we have to borrow in terms of deficit. So if the president can move around and he can prioritize, I think he said this week he doesn't want to have to pick between sick children and disabled children. No one wants to have to pick between them. But if you don't want to make hard choices, don't get involved in politics. He's known this was coming for 2 years.
He decided,
2 years.
It was his idea, actually. It was actually his idea.
It was his idea, and he signed it into law. And he's acting like it's the first he's heard of it.
You know, look, I don't want to hurt starving children, disabled children. I don't want anyone to lose a job. However, the American people were just asked to give up 2% in additional taxes recently. So it's sort of hard for, at least for me, to understand why the federal government, those who represent the government, can't find 2%, 2.4% to take out of the increased spending. Now, we're not even asking them to reduce spending. We're talking about slowing down the spending growth by 2.4%. So if we can find it in our wallets, why can't you all find it in the budget?
Well, we ought to be able to, and some of us in the House have found it. But as you know, in the summer of 2011, they couldn't do it, so that's why sequestration was put into place. It was designed to be painful. They wanted to avoid it. But the so-called super committee was not able to come up with any systemic, transformative remedy. So here we sit. Actually, we were supposed to hit sequestration on January 1st. We've already avoided it once. It's going to happen tomorrow. And when people wake up and they see that the Mayan prophecy is not true and the Hale-Bopp comet didn't sweep them up and the sequestration didn't have things falling out of the sky, you know what's going to happen, Greta? They're going to conclude that, you know what, maybe we can cut a little bit. Maybe we can cut 1/15.
If it's painful, you know what? It's the politicians' fault because there is so much fat in the government that tell me you can't find 2.4% in a slowed growth, not in a cut, but actually in a slowed growth. And if everyone knew it was coming, if anyone is shocked, if anyone suddenly gets a pink slip, it's because there's really bad planning on the part of everybody else leading up to it.
I wholeheartedly agree. If we cannot find it, look, we're going to try to balance the budget in 10 years. That may be a heavy lift for Paul Ryan, but finding $85 billion in a budget this size, you ought to be able to find that in the ashtray of your car in a budget this size. But you would think that the sky was going to fall tomorrow and that we won't have air traffic controllers and we won't have TSA agents and FBI agents. What's going to happen is people are going to wake up and they're going to say, you know what? It's uncomfortable, but that's what happens when you get $16 trillion in debt.
That's what happened.
The president wants to balance it.
That's what happens when the politicians really mess up their jobs as stewards of our national budget. Right.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I was not there for all 16 trillion. I've
I'm
only
just
been
kidding
there
you.
for maybe
I'll give you a pass.
the last 2
I'll
trillion.
give you a pass. Congressman, always nice to see you.
Give me 2 of the trillion. All right.
I'll give you 2 of the trillion. Thank you, sir. President Obama